In June 2007, Hull experienced a devastating flood, which had a massive impact on the community. There was a great deal of media attention at the time, but the real impact on the community was when the cameras went away.
It just sort of affected everything. Work, your social life, hobbies, normal life completely went out of the window.
I said there were fish swimming between my legs coming down the street. It was a weird sensation. I had to force the front door open because it obviously swelled up with all the water. You walked in and the house was full of water.
We knew people were going to be out of their homes for 2 years or more, so we thought it's really important to learn what's that longer term experience actually like for people as they sort of struggle to get their lives and homes back on track. So with the Adults Project, it involved around 50 people keeping diaries for us for an 18-month period of their experiences after the flood, and also coming together for regular group discussions. People would tell us actually it wasn't so much the flood that was the issue, it was what came after, you know, that secondary trauma of having to deal with insurers, builders, trying to get your home sorted out again, trying to sort of recover some semblance of normal family life as far as that might be possible.
This was the really devastating day when the council came round and asked us all to put all our belongings that had been ruined on the front gardens. They loaded everybody's belongings into the back of this crusher lorry, and to watch it going up the street and everybody's belongings being crushed.
Just everything.
In this massive lorry.
Yeah.
And
that was a very traumatic day, that one.
Antiques and everything that I mean, some of this stuff we'd had since we were first married.
Some of the adults were telling us that they were concerned about their own children, or the teachers were concerned about pupils at school, and we realised that nobody was actually talking to the children and young people to find out what they were feeling and how they had coped. So we called the project our sister project, and we worked with children in a primary school. We also worked with children in a secondary school and some young people from a youth club, and we also worked with their carers, with their teachers.
One student in particular, a Year 10 boy, had actually been rehomed 3 times within a year, and he was finding it difficult to concentrate at school. He was still sort of working out of a caravan, trying to get homework done. It was very, very difficult, and he would come in and be quite upset about it still. So I did know that he was only the tip of the iceberg as far as working with children was concerned.
I wanted to use a methodology that would encourage the children to tell us about their stories, a storyboard which enables children to draw, maybe write a poem about their experiences. And we found that the storyboards are actually a very helpful therapeutic way to help them to work through what they'd actually experienced. So what's happening here? You lived in your home, and it says, "But I became ill."
Because we had white walls, so it was all this black like mould coming up, and because there was all the moisture of it and the dampness, me, my mum, and I think my dad as well, we all became ill.
The key thing with having the storyboards for us was that we were then able to go back and use them as prompts for the interviews. So it was really, good to be able to sit down with the children and young people and say, "Oh, that's really interesting. I see, you've drawn me a skip here. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that means?" And then that was a really good way direct way into their experiences.
I think certainly that it allowed us to work in a more emotional way. We built that into the curriculum and certainly into the social way that we dealt with families. I think if we hadn't done that with these children, then certainly their attainment and their outcomes would have suffered.
Probably the key impact that we've had on policy is really reinforcing that point about it's not just about disasters, it's not just about emergency planning, it's actually about what comes after, it's about that long and very protracted recovery period. We got directly quoted in the Pitt Review, which was the government's national level inquiry into the floods. The Cabinet Office also did a strategic national framework for community resilience, and in that again our project features very heavily. They said how helpful it was to learn from the diarists and participants themselves about their experiences, that really informed how they developed that strategy.
So we had this great impact on policy, and we entered the ESRC award, and we were successful and won a prize. And as a result of winning the prize, Save the Children heard about the work that we'd been doing with children and young people in Hull, and they invited us to develop a set of resources to help children and young people in the UK to deal with their emotions following on from a disaster. And it just feels so worthwhile that the work that we've done with the children is now feeding into an international NGO's work.
Disasters, unfortunately, whether natural or otherwise, are not going to go away. And, you know, rather than just focusing on the events themselves, I think there's a real need to learn how we can better support people in the longer term after these events.